Comrades and friends, welcome to our beautiful Republic of Technovakia. It has been some time that we've embarked on this journey together. North of 80 episodes we spent building housing, connecting industries, working tirelessly to build this beautiful republic of ours. And as I look at the center of Berlin where it has all started and looking at the portrait of Lenin, our nation's spiritual leader, I thought it might be time to give you all that are new to the channel or just new to the game and wanted to get into it or interested in this series, but just can't wrap their head around this magnificent nation of ours, a little tour of what we have accomplished together and just how it started and what the functions of the various industries are, how they're connected, and the plans for future episodes. So those of you who are new to the channel and just gave the game or the series a quick look, but got bored because you don't understand why I built this or built such and connect this and the things I talk about, because I never recap what we've accomplished here. And it's kind of difficult, or I would say impossible, to get it just from looking at me play, and that misses a lot of context then if you're listening to my explanations and my planning and you can't really contribute in the comments. So anyway, long story short, I wanted to give you a tour today of what we have built. I'll give a little outlook on what I have in mind. I have no clue how long this is going to take me, so I'm assuming we're like maybe 15-20 minutes. It's a bit shorter. Just try and rush through, and I'll of course answer any questions that you might have that will give you an understanding of what we built here, the mistakes I made of course, and I'm looking forward to all of you in the comments and suggestions on where we might continue to grow or what we might fix before we continue to grow. Anyhow, so like I said, it all started here in Berlin. That is our first little city, and actually I think I started looking at the map like this. And we're here at Berlin Mitte. That is the big bus station, and that was the first couple of buildings that we erected together. That was actually you start with a bit of a bank, and that's where we spent it on. So we built this bus station here, and the school in the middle, and a shopping center here, a cinema. Somewhere we have a kindergarten as well. Where is that? Oh yeah, I think I moved that already. Yeah, the kindergarten is over here now. It used to be up here. And then we built a ring of houses around it, like these here. If you can see, they're not the most beautiful ones, but they did work for early citizens. So we built these houses here and on the other side there for first housing for our citizens. And we didn't have a train station back then. We didn't have anything much except for a cinema and these couple of houses. There's our first pub there, the Berlin pub. We didn't have this monitoring station, none of that. Of course, no radio, nothing like that. So that is where we started out. And we did then, I think, connect... Yeah, we did then have a food industry located up here. Food and... Actually, just these two buildings, the food factory and the distillery, in an attempt to, of course, feed the people, because we did definitely need that. And we attempted to make money, or we did actually successfully do that, with selling alcohol. And the next revenue-based industry that we have is our excuse me, our clothing industry that has actually been with us, I don't know, for at least 60 episodes or so. That was and is still the backbone. If we look in our economy just last year maybe, and then we look at the income we have, the clothing is still the backbone of all of our income. We do now make a little bit of steel, and that's probably going to overtake it and all, but this is where it all started. This is practically the funding for all the projects we have, for all the fuel we have bought for our cars and whatnot. It all started here, and they're still going strong, building clothing for our citizens. And of course, mostly exporting these clothes to our friends on the border there, so they can also have quality clothing. So that is our little clothing industry here. It consists of a fabrics factory that just needs some chemicals and crops to produce fabric, and distributing it to two clothing factories here, and a warehouse where the finished clothes are ready for pickup. The fooding industry, what the hell? The food industry moved up here because it is very, very pollution heavy. I didn't expect that, so that's one of the many, many mistakes I made. And the food industry got connected to this warehouse because, of course, we have a couple cities to feed, most notably Stettin, but also Messina over here, and of course Berlin, where we currently are now. So we moved that up here to have cleaner air for our citizens, and that is pretty simple. We just have a food factory, a distillery, connected to a warehouse that feeds those two crops, which we still can't, even with all that, we still can't supply on our own. So we're still buying them to a certain extent, but we are working currently, as you can see up here in the north, on new farms. That's going to be 3 big farms connected to our rail that will then bring crops in here and feed that hungry food factory and distillery. So hopefully we won't be reliant on buying crops anymore. Even though we're rich, but you never know when you need it, right? Next to here is our center of distribution, pretty much, or truck-based distribution. There's 3 distribution centers. This one on the outside here is responsible for distributing food throughout our city, pretty much. Meat and food and clothing as well. I'll take a sip of my tea if you don't mind. All that talking. Thirsty work. So, we're picking up clothing from here, and of course food and alcohol from this road cargo station, and distributing it throughout the city. And if you where was it actually? Here. If you look at that overlay, we can now see every building here in yellow is providing food and clothing for our citizens. So here we have the meat storage connected to the shopping center, and we have 2 shops up here, shop and a bar actually, and the same here in our university district there. So that's the responsibility of this distribution center. The other one over here doesn't have that much to do yet, is simply for exporting steel, because we had that over. Originally the distribution centers were much closer to the city right here, where the stadium now is, but we moved them up here, and we have one that didn't really have a task, so that is solely responsible for providing steel to the border there, and whatever task might pop up that we needed some additional logistics powers or some additional trucks, we'll do with that multi-purpose distribution center. And the one on the left here, and that was one of our originals, actually need to name those, is responsible for export. So that will pick up clothing, will pick up meat and food and alcohol and bring it to the border. And currently it's not too busy anymore, and especially these refrigerated and covered trucks are not too busy anymore, because we have a very much higher demand of food and alcohol, so we don't export as much as we used to. But we still have that here, and we might ramp up production. I did some measures to do just that, so we'll see if we have to sell some of those or what we'll do. But for now, we'll export that. But of course, they have a threshold. They will only export food if we have 20% in the warehouse and 40% of meat. So we always have enough to feed the people. So that pretty much is this area. It's connected to 2 farms. This farm here, this one here was our original farm that also got moved. That started up here, had fields around it here, and we moved it up to here, and we built a distribution office that is just responsible for collecting all the harvested crops. Just checking if we missed any fields. No, we didn't. So there's that. On the other side here, we have an additional farm that's a rather new acquisition. I'd say around episode 70 or so. But yeah, it's just a gut feeling guess, whatever. That's just a farm and a distribution center for harvesting. Actually, check if we got all the fields. We do. And feeding into this, into these 2 industries. And yeah, that is pretty much our agricultural area connected to Berlin here. Nothing much to say. We're currently working on expanding. We just built a bridge over here A pretty impressive construction, I gotta say. We just built a bridge over there, connecting these new farms that are currently in the process of being built, and to this cargo distribution station up there, where we can then bring crops in here and maybe also distribute food throughout the land. We'll see. We'll see. I'll get to this part here in a second, but first let's get back to Berlin. Now, as Berlin has been growing, as you can see, it's quite a, well, not large city, but a medium-sized city, I would say. We moved around a bit. We got sports places here where people can, this year's in a sports hall. We gotta build a couple more of those because soon we'll enable seasons and then people will need a place indoors to do their sports. But then we had the plan, and we executed it, I think, beautifully, to bring like a high-class or middle-class citizen area up the hill here, into the hill, with the sights on building this technical university, where they're currently not researching anything, but soon they will be. Do we have... Yeah, we have enough, okay. So, we built middle-class houses here, these brick flats, and just smaller, high-quality prefab flats. And of course, the citizens here will also need their school, their kindergarten and sports hall. There's the kindergarten there. There's another one there in the middle here. So this one is Berlin Mitte. This one here is Lenins Jugend, which means Lenin's youth. I took the liberty to take some German names because this is Berlin and I am German, so they come naturally. But as we keep moving further to the east there, we will certainly pick some other names as well. And as always, I'm open for that in the comments for suggestions. Now, once we built this area here and all the citizens there, we have another bus station, a smaller one, that supplies workers in part for this fabric, for this clothing, what you call area there, industrial area there. And but most importantly, it supplies workers for this university of ours. That's the technical university here. There's some dormitories around. It's not used too much because most of the people already studied here. But we got 2 dormitories. We got a school close to there. And of course also a gym and some tennis courts. And a beautiful statue to remind our people that are studying of the, what do you call, of the sickle and hammer. Our nation's symbols. Then we needed some extra shops there, so the students could go shop in this area here, and the professors and people who live here. And of course, since that is a far walk if you live over here, we also added one here and a pub there as well. Now, at the head of Berlin is our hospital here that covers all of Berlin. We might soon acquire a couple more cars there. Do you cover all of Berlin? Yeah, you do. They have quite a large area to cover there, actually. We might build a little clinic just so we improve on healthcare, but it is pretty good. If we take a look... Okay, let's just run the game for a second there. If we take a look in here, we have an average lifespan of 87 years. That's pretty decent, I would say. We could improve it a little, but all in all, the citizens have not much to complain. And here we have a little theater. What's that noise now? Go away. Why is it noisy? Huh. Okay, I shouldn't have unpaused. Now it's all that car noise. Anyway, we're almost done with Berlin anyway. So, we have the fire station here, and we do have a little theater there. Fire station and hospital provide the much-needed civic services there. Yeah, so that is pretty much all we can say for Berlin. That space that we won when we moved back our industry here was then used to build a stadium for the citizens to watch big soccer games and do some sports of their own when it's not used for tournaments or whatever. And here we have still some city area that we won back from moving the industry that is not yet used. We might make a big park here, amusement park or something. The plan for Berlin is to build a city hotel up here, because this here, if we go onto this vantage point, is just a beautiful view. If we take a look at that and look around the city here, you can see pretty much all of our nation. as it currently stands. Well, not all of it, there's something behind the mountain there, but almost all of it. You can see the agricultural area here, you have a nice view of Berlin, and as you can hear, it's very quiet up here. You can't really hear the city's noise. And then you get the forest area there, you get the agricultural town of Messina and our meat production and all. So yeah, it's a nice vantage point, and I'll try and get a road up here, which is gonna be challenging. That is quite a steep climb, but so that is that. Okay, now Berlin started with a small construction office over here. I think just the one. And we started also, since we don't have gravel deposits anywhere close to Berlin. I'm sorry guys, sounds like a train is driving out my window, but it's actually just a very old car making that noise. I hope the microphone didn't pick up too much of it. Anyway, we started with a small construction office over here that now turned into two huge construction offices and one medium-sized one that's just responsible for buildings. And these construction offices and the materials are stored over here, and the material storages are supplied with this distribution office, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, that is our construction capability now. We started with, maybe we can show that. We started with the official construction office with this one. This cute small little thing. And now we have a huge park of cars and trucks and excavators and bulldozers and whatnots that have all worked tirelessly to build this beautiful city of ours. We then started with gravel production over here, next to this lake, next to the border, because we didn't have much, or we don't still have much gravel anywhere close to Berlin, sadly. So these two gravel pits were our first source of gravel. They're still working pretty well. We have a small refueling station here. Used to be somewhere here, but yeah, it got moved a couple times. It is now that small one that refuels the excavators, and the trucks can use this proper gas station to get refueled. Here we have our gravel processing plant that turns gravel, or that turns rocks into gravel, and bring it to this aggregate storage there. And that is connected to a conveyor belt, I wouldn't say network, but a system here, that can be accessed through this loading station by truck. Used to be this one, but we're currently working to have the main access here and then distribute it to whoever needs it. So, where was I? Yeah, it's then fed into our cement plant and our prefab panels factory, and those two work together. It's like the cement plant is connected to our prefab panels factory because they really need the cement as well as gravel, and there used to be supply for our construction, which has been moved now up to here, but we'll talk about that in a second. So those two are raw material production, and they're pretty weirdly placed because that was one of our earliest industries, and they're gonna get redone in the next episodes to be a little bit more connected to the rail system, or actually connected at all, because currently they're not, and they're so awkwardly placed I don't think I'll have a chance to do that. So we'll need to rebuild them, but now we're really in a position to do it. And one of the earliest industries as well that we had that supplied our city with warmth and energy is this coal mine up here on the hill behind Berlin, and this coal ore processing plant that is processing the raw coal, bringing it into this aggregate storage, and from there it gets fed into the brick factory. That was our first building to connect to the rail system. That was the start of our rail system, actually. And here, this area used to be our power plant. We had a power plant up here that supplied Berlin with energy, but we recently moved that because it's close to Berlin and provides pollution, which we didn't want. We moved that and built a redundant power supply here, that we have two power plants. We have a bit of a bank here in 1,000 tons of coal. So if anything goes wrong in Berlin, or anything like the coal production gets rebuilt or redone, or we have a worker shortage, whatever, this here can... it's pretty much like a battery, a large black battery, and if any one of these catches fire or something, then the other one can jump in and they're interconnected into our power grid. But that is a recent acquisition, also around episode 70, I think. Sorry, I need another sip of tea there. Here's their private little fire station, so they're safe from unexpected unexpected burn downs, to say, because our main fire station is up here, and that's quite a drive. Right, but that used to be here, and now we put in a asphalt plant, a concrete plant, and a cement silo here, and they're all supplied by trucks. And we have a gravel storage here and a cement silo here that are pretty much the backup for our construction industry. So all the mixed ready materials like asphalt and concrete are produced in this little area here. And the storable goods, the prefab panels, the steel, bricks and boards, they're all stored here, and actually the bricks are produced right up here. Next to that is our rail construction office, the first one we built, and our sawmill connected to a wood cutting post and a little forest that we recently replenished. And here's where our boards get built and stored into these storage areas there. We also have a warehouse for electronics and mechanical components that we currently still buy. And this brick factory is the first that got connected to our rail system, to this storage here, and that is connected up there to the first of the diesel stations. And this here is our first train depot that probably soon will be moved or completely removed, I'm not quite sure yet. And that is our first connection to the border through rail. And here's that diesel locomotive that brings 260 tons or 270 tons roughly of bricks to the second border station there for, I don't know, a good 40 episodes already. So yeah, and these here are the first tracks. We now since then doubled down on the tracks, so we'll that's going to be a next project to actually make this a two-way, so we can also connect it to this side. And yeah, that is pretty much it for Berlin. Nothing much to say, except that we also have a new industrial, I was about to say harbor, but it's not a harbor, it's a rail connection here. And that's going to be the offloading point for crops and fuel, but that's currently being built. We're actually quite far on it, I didn't realize how far. So yeah, just the fuel unloading station, and then all we need is crops and fuel, which we're currently working on to build. Right, so that is Berlin. There's not that much left to do in Berlin. We're, like I said, remodel this area here and then get some space for the heating plant. That also needs to be fitted somewhere, because we'll soon enable seasons. Right, so we had crops and we had liquor and we had clothing produced in Berlin, but we lacked meat, which is really expensive to buy. So the next project was to move out from Berlin and build this little area here and build a meat production. So we have a slaughterhouse here that is fed by 2 livestock farms. Ooh, sorry for the sounds. It's fed by 2 livestock farms, and the livestock farms are fed by this agro farm here that is almost... Actually, it's pretty well keeping up now, but that is because I made a little mistake and we have a huge stockpile of crops here that, yeah, don't want to really talk about it. Anyway, nothing for a recap. So this here is a farm with a lot of fields connected to it that can supply, like this system in itself is pretty much self-sufficient, except for this slaughterhouse that could make use of, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 livestock farms. Like these 2 are just barely keeping these workers busy. So we only have 5 workers in here. And yeah, but other than that, this area is self-sufficient, or not self-sufficient, what's the word I'm looking for? Balanced. Like one farm will feed 2 livestock farms, and they feed into this range, and then that one feeds into the slaughterhouse. And to man all this with workers, we built a little town of Messina over here. Might find a nicer name for it, but that's currently it. And that is actually very fast to explain that. We just have living quarters here, not the large houses like in Berlin, the prefab houses, but more in a brick style. The largest houses here are these large brick flats. And they just have a school in the middle, a kindergarten, some place where they can do sports, some basketball court, and of course a cinema. It's this beautiful block here. And the supermarket, and yeah, that's about it. And they supply workers, first of all, to our meat production here, and also to this second construction area that soon after followed, because we couldn't properly construct this from Berlin. It's just too long of a drive. If you look over here, just took forever to bring the stuff here. So we also constructed this huge construction office with supplies that could then build up Messina here, because there was quite a few houses to build. Right, and over here we have a nice, tight, compact construction material supply. We have these open storages that are fed from Berlin, so there's a distribution offices that just does that. This guy here just goes between Berlin and Beatrice and brings these goods up to here. We have our own gravel production, because there's a load of gravel up here, which we might connect to the rail system in the near future, because this here is much more efficient than in Berlin, because the drive is much shorter. And there's not so many drainages on this. Like, they just supply the construction here, but that is pretty much done by now. So all they supply with this is the rail construction, and so we do have loads of gravel that we could ship throughout our nation. And we are gonna connect it here. Just didn't think about it yet, because there's tight space there. And before we leave this area here, there's still a long train depot that we just recently built, and a fueling station that we're probably gonna move up here somewhere, connected into the rails. I don't know what I was thinking doing it like this. So we gain some space here, but yeah, that's pretty much it. A little construction area that also functions as a buffer toward our construction area down here. Here we have the second rail construction office that constructed all the tracks up to here, and all the tracks leading down into our industrial area and into our biggest city as of yet, named Stettin. So that is all we can say about this area here. Now, from here on, we moved down toward what would become Stettin, and mostly with a plan in mind to build a steel mill and produce our own steel. And to facilitate that, we started out with a construction area up here, also as usual consisting of open storages and a bit of a cement silo and a concrete plant and asphalt plant and stuff like that, and gravel. A distribution office that does fetch those goods from here, bring them to here. And then, of course, a couple of construction offices. We started out with one large, one huge. We now have 2 huge, 1 large, and I need to connect the huge. I need to buy the vehicles, but didn't do that just yet because we don't have enough workers to supply all of our construction sites, because the industry that we set out to build here, and that is the pride and joy of the nation currently, is this steel mill and the mines and processing plants that feed it. They suck up workers like nobody's business. We need 200 in here, we need 90 in here, and we need mostly, like, currently we have like 300 in this steel mill. So they're very, very work intensive, and so we don't really have that much left to feed another huge construction office. Anyway, so let's start here. We connected this steel mill to the train tracks, and also there's an unloading station for gravel in the future. We didn't build the connection yet because we don't really need it. It's currently supplied with trucks and that's working fine. And for coal, which is also currently being used, they bring coal from Berlin to here. And this is our steel production there, connected to 2 storages there for coal and iron ore, and that's being processed by these 2 plants and being mined by these 2 mines. So pretty simple setup. We might expand on that a little, but yeah, in, I don't know, 40-50 episodes, I know. Currently this is working perfectly fine. We just probably need buffer storage between the mines and the processing plants, but that is a complicated rebuild. And this area here is already, the compact build here is the work of, I don't know, lots of hours and trial and error, and building this into the mountain here was quite the project. But the people accomplished it, and I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. We just need to finish these conveyors here as soon as we're done with Stettin. Now, to man this and to provide workers, we started the city of Stettin, and as usual we started out in here in this central area there. There was a supermarket that has been rebuilt as a shopping mall. There's a cinema here, a station and a train station. And we had a fire department here that got moved down to here. It's strategically better located. Actually, do we have coverage? Yes, we do. Awesome. So that's what we started with. And these houses around it, like these prefab buildings, were encircling this central area. And from there we built up over here our school district, I would call that. There's a school and some sporting places, some playgrounds and the gym, and you know, so the kids can get educated. There's another kindergarten over here. And we ran into a tight situation with the money because this steel construction was very, very, very expensive. There's I don't know how many 100,000 of rubles in here worth in steel, and we didn't have our own yet. So to provide money for that operation, we started this tourist area over here. And we built 2 more prefab panels. We built prefab flats to house workers that will work in these hotels here, in the beach here, in the 2 restaurants, in our Museum of the Republic and this cafe, and the shops, to accompany or to satisfy tourists from our neighbors in the east. And yeah, that is the function of this area, and that was the birth of our first sea connection, or the reason for that. We built a harbor here. We originally had a depot there that has since been moved, a ship dock. And oh, there's our first ship there, we can catch it. And we're shipping with these meteor ships that are quite fast. We're shipping tourists from the border up here. Can you see that on the horizon? Oh yeah, there's our second ship, and the border is right up here if you can see my mouse. And they're coming through this river into Stettin with those 2 ships, and they can just max out the capacity of our hotel here. So that is the purpose of that area. Then we have Stettin. We went over that. We see quote-unquote small prefab flats and built these high-rises as the heart of Stettin. They can house 500 workers, but of course they have a huge demand for space, and but they're very, very modern, pretty looking, and just make a beautiful, especially at night, beautiful addition to the city. And of course provide modern houses for our workers. And since we have a lot more workers, we started a second school district here. And since our Republic has, as you have now witnessed throughout this episode, grown quite large, we also need administration staff and the party officials, and they also needed a place to live. So for them, we built this little luxury resort over here. These small, intricate houses with a bit of nature in between, a couple of trees there, a theater so they don't get bored, a restaurant there, some tennis courts, and a nice park that we're going to modify once the new patch comes out, and clean up these grass patches here a little bit. And of course kindergarten and shopping facilities all close by, and with a beautiful view, currently unobstructed by any construction, on this lake here and on the nature surrounding it. So that is where our party officials can live. And for the middle class, we built modern brick flats and some more brick houses over here. And they're the workers and the professors for our medical university can find a home there. Quite close, in walking distance. We are currently in the process of building up some more shops and a bus station. So yeah, that is this area here. Again, the hospital is in the center of the city, at the head of the central area there, the shopping mall and the hospital, and it can reach pretty much anywhere there. We're just going to add another little clinic here, so the party officials don't have to wait in case of an emergency. There's a cinema as well here, so all the needs are covered. Anything else to say about this? Not really. We're currently expanding Stettin a little more because we need workers for the oil refinery that is in the process of being built here. This here is the actual heart of the complex here, is the oil refinery. Surrounding it are a couple storage tanks and a train connection, the oil fuel loading and unloading station, and a pumping harbor that will then be accessible through ships and bring in more crude oil. And the crude oil for this operation here will come from our almost finished building up here and connected to trains here. And there's a row of storage tanks that get pumped into this one that connect to the train loading station. So we'll have a short distance of train tracks leading to the refinery there. And we'll feed this with crude oil from there. We'll feed it with crude oil from up here. There's another deposit there that'll come over the river there with tankers. And yeah, that area here is the reason for this additional construction area there that has been built from Berlin here, following the road there, along the clothing industry and along the river here. Or the lake here, rather. It's not a river, right? Yeah, it's just a big lake. And we connected this here. There's a couple of open storages, as usual, and they will be a buffer as well, connecting to this construction area that is currently in the process of being built up here. And the usual. I mean, we need some gravel, some cement, and all the other stuff, so we can build. From here we have a distribution center that will manage all the supplies, and we have a huge construction office that built, amongst other things, this tunnel here, and of course the power connection and all that there. We also have our fire station that can ensure that this oil area there is safe, because if a fire starts there, it's pretty bad. And it's connected to the workers from Berlin over to this area. So that pretty much sums it up for our little nation. The only thing I forgot is we built a radio station here, but that is a bit buggy still, so I don't make use of it, and we didn't expand that network. But that's going to come up after the next patch. And now we're back to Berlin. And from Berlin, we're gonna, like I said, remodel the area here, our construction supplies, the dry goods, and maybe rework the coal production, because we're really reliant on that, and we need more coal for more steel. And connect our bricks and dried goods and boards to the rail system, because currently all is done by trucks, hopping from this storage to this storage to this storage, and that does work well, but is a little, it doesn't scale that well. If I want to have more materials here, I need to up the throughput on all the hops. And that is much easier done on the rail systems, because where you can just build a longer train and they can have huge amounts of building materials and ship them over much faster. So that is a project. Then we, like I said, connect this farming area there, and then we got our sights set on the north here, because there's a uranium deposit here, there's more oil up there, and for that we'll connect this city here, build it up, because this is really in a sad state. I mean, the church we might leave. I'm not sure. I'm not really a friend of the let's say the party ideal. If you have the party in your heart, there's not much space for God as well. So we'll see how we get along, but it's most likely going to stay. Some of the old houses as well, but we're going to remodel parts of this and build it up with more modern housing, and of course supply them with food and alcohol and all that. Right. So that is the tour through our little nation. Took quite long, but there's a lot we built and accomplished. And now you're up to date. And now if you enjoyed that, if you liked the game, you're free, of course, and very welcome to watch the upcoming episodes in this beautiful republic of ours. We're at least continuing, like I said last episode, to expand, to follow through on the plans to expand to the north, and from there we'll see where it's gonna take us. And of course, as usual, I'm always open to suggestions on which direction we need to expand. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I hope you now have a bit of an idea how our republic works and where it's headed and where it came from, and hope to see you around in our future episodes. Until then, have a wonderful day and goodbye.